going to go through gradually and explain what it is we're doing here, because I'm sure a lot of you are curious about the detail about what's going on here. First of all, Nat Noir, welcome to country. This is Gunditjmara land, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present and emerging. They're amazing people, the Gunditjmara. If you ever get the chance, head up to Budge Bin. We'll be speaking about that. One of the best businesses to ever come out of Australia came out of Budge Bin, the old smoked eel. I'm framing it as a business, you see, because that's what we're here for. So, welcome to everybody. I would name the distinguished guests that we have here. Do you want to share as well? You can't just stand there looking angry. But we are all distinguished guests here. This is an even playing field. We're all entrepreneurs. We're all here to advance the culture of this region. We're all here to start up our own little businesses, do our own little thing. But I would like to say thank you to a couple of people because they've been extra generous with their time in allowing this to happen. So Troy and Dean at the Motor Museum, firstly, for opening up this space for an event. That's pretty wild, pretty amazing. Great space, right? Yeah. You can imagine when this place kicks off fully, what it'll do to this region. It'll be amazing. It'll be a place where families can all enjoy. Not like Port Fairy where the mums and the kids are all having a great time and the dads are all sitting on the park benches waiting for the wives to finish shopping and looking through my gallery. That's a business opportunity, by the way. If someone can figure out how to keep those blokes all down the main street of Port Fairy entertainment, you'll do well. I'd also like to thank Matchbox for doing the catering and the drinks, Launchfit for giving us money, Runway for giving us expertise and wisdom, Sinead Murphy for giving us a touch of class, the Moyne, Cronamite and Warrnambool Shire Councils for chipping in with all of this. Warrnambool in particular have helped with the branding and the design of all of this. TAFE and Deakin are also heavily involved, and the potential there is wonderful. I'm really glad to see tertiary institutions backing these ideas. Obviously they're hoping that we'll come up with some good. And the Fletcher Jones Foundation, because they came in and just got excited about the prospect, and just over one coffee it was enough for them to go take $10,000 and give it to somebody who needs that money to start up a great business. That's how good this idea seems to be, that they're willing to do that. You know where the toilets are? They're down there. We're also filming this event and we'll be taking photos through the night. So if that's not good for you, please let us know back out at the desk out there and we will, I don't know, put a mask on you, digitally remove you, I don't know, we'll figure out something. We haven't worked out what, but we'll do it. And we do apologise, it is a work site as Troy said, so I'm sorry if some people couldn't navigate stairs or anything like that. Obviously once the museum is up and running, that will all be taken care of. So this whole thing, the Ideas Place, it's all about business startups. So I've already heard a few people asking, is this like beers and ideas on steroids? And sort of, but not really. It's more about, like beers and ideas is kind of localised empowerment for small startup initiatives, pop-up initiatives, little things you want to see happen in your community. This one's more regional, so it's Moyne, Cronamite and Warrnambool. And it's more about starting up something that you're passionate about, some clever idea that you've got that you see a gap for out there in the world, you think you can make a living out of. That's what we're here for. We're here to give you a living, to have a vocation that you like. We want to see startup businesses happening all over the place. This is also, I'm going to use some buzzwords tonight too. There'll be a couple of buzzwords. I'm sorry about the buzzwords. We've had a bit of a no buzzwords policy, like startups. Unicorns. Has anyone heard of a unicorn other than the mystical animal with a horn on its head? Unicorns in the startup terminology are like the golden dream, the holy grail of business startups. They're like the Googles, the Facebooks, they're unicorns, apparently. So I'm going to be avoiding that, but I'm going to say that this is a safe space. This is a space where we don't want negatives. I think in the old lexicon, it was like a no defects policy. So we're really chasing that dream. We don't want real negativity. A little bit of negativity is fine, constructive negativity. If you think it's 90% good, but we could work on something, just say that. Just say, oh, that was really awesome, but how about next time you just do a little bit of this as well? And we'll take that on board so well. We're going to screw up, we're going to do little mistakes. It's been hugely busy already. I've definitely made mistakes already. But if they're constructive, the feedback, we will take it on board. What else have we got here? So, and also, we're open to compliments, by the way. So, I suppose I should introduce myself. So my name's Gareth Colliton. That's probably not important. Trusting why I'm up here in front of you is probably a bit important. Because a lot of you guys know that I'm just a painter. I just make artworks. And you're probably going, what's this guy doing running business stuff? I've had that question too. But I also am like a lot of you guys, I'm very much a social entrepreneur. Like I like to build things within my community that make my community better. Not for you, but for me. I'm totally selfish about it, I'll say it. It's all about making the community a better place for me to live in. And I've been very fortunate along the way. I've worked with the most amazing people for 25 years in this region. And I think that might be why I got the job. Like, it's kind of like the networks that I've got. It's not really me, it's just my networks, it's my contact list that they're after. I've been very fortunate to work with, well, I wrote it down because I couldn't even remember. I've lectured at Deakin, I've taught at TAFE, I've worked with the council, I've worked with not-for-profits including Brophy, Wadea, RAD, Holiday Actors, Special Development School, Kickabush, Great South Coast Leadership. It goes on and on, but I've been very, very lucky to work with the most amazing people who I could just call up, and a lot of you guys showed up. So thanks. I think there's a real appetite for this kind of thing growing all over the world. So I'm here because I want a community where people live deliberately. That's like a line from Henry David Thoreau. Robin Williams said it when he jumped up on a table in Dead Poets Society. I went into the woods because I wanted to live my life deliberately. I wanted to live my life consciously, to understand, to do it on purpose. Not to be swept along by all the things that we're swept along by and go to a job I hate, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and then enjoy my weekends with the money I've just earned by working for 40 hours. I'd like to see everybody, including me, have awesome jobs that we enjoy. I'd like to see everybody, well, what do they say? If you have a job you like, you never work a day in your life. So it's kind of like that. I do like 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, but it's all awesome. It's all amazing work, and I work with amazing people. So the reason I chose this region is because it is full of entrepreneurial stuff like this. I mentioned the Gunditj Mara and the Gunditj Miring people, and Budge Bim, which is a life-changing experience when you get there. So 7,000 years ago, those guys just stood on a bit of landscape and went, there's a river running through here. Once a year, thousands of eels swim past us. And they were like, and they are yummy. They are delicious. If we could figure out a way of catching those guys and selling them to neighbouring tribes, we could hang out here a lot more, you know? So they did. They dug big aquifers out and they lined them with the volcanic stone and they wove eel traps and they trapped them and they smoked them and then they sold them and they traded them, which is a business. And it enabled them to build a whole community that was semi-permanent, the first time in human evolution that we were able to stay in one spot. So what that accomplished is unbelievable. Me and my kids watch QI on ABC with Stephen Fry and Sandy Toksvig, and they said, what's the oldest aquifer in the world? And my kids were like, Budge Bim. And the answer was Mesopotamia, 2,500 years ago. And my kids were like, what? Shit. It's Budge Bim at 7,000 years ago. But it's not really known, out there in the world how amazing this region is. And then the farmers that settled there, like the colonial farmers, picked up the same stones and did similar things. They built channels and ditches and lined them with the same volcanic rocks, and then they dipped their sheep through to get rid of the, I don't know, what do sheep have, fleas? I don't know. Right, good rock. Thank you, farmer. Good. Same. And then today we've got Bamstone, like this giant, amazing company in Port Fairy using the same volcanic rock to do another business out of. So it just goes back and back and back. I also wrote down a few other ones that really impressed me about things from this region where people have been innovative and have made great businesses that have affected their lives or given themselves and their families a living, but also, in some cases, I'm going to say millions of other people an opportunity to make a good living. Some of the people from around here. They're not all known either. Like, I get all goosebumpy about this stuff. But from Fletcher Jones's pants, which were made right here, so he was a guy that just went, every time I want a pair of pants, I've got to go down to this guy and he touches me up and he measures things and he goes away for 2 weeks and cuts bits of fabric, and then I come back and I make sure it's not quite right, so then I come back again. He's like, we're all kind of the same shape. Why can't we just have a shop with kind of the same size pants? And so he kind of invented that, which was, looking back, really obvious, but at the time it was like, mind-blowing. So, oh, hang on, my phone's ringing up. That's pretty wild. That is the sister of the scientist who mapped the human genome, trying to call it. That's cool. That wasn't staged. But he's from here. Some other things that are really impressive around here, like music, Waltzing Matilda, strong connection around here. Standing on Solid Rock, very strong connection to around here. You've got some of these rap names you'll recognise, some you won't. Tom Ballard, Catherine Ryan, Glenn Morgan, Richard Gibbs, that was his sister, Kynan Barker, Georgia Coughlin, Airborne, Richard Pritchard, Yale Design, John Eccles, Dave Hughes, Bonsai, King Parrot, Architecture in Helsinki, Midfield Meat, Jimmy Buscombe, give us a yell. The most famous artist in Australia. So, Rex Batterby and John Gardner, whose great nephew helped with the design of this thing. Those guys, John Gardner and Rex Batterby, taught Namatjira to paint. So they're from here as well. Namatjira, man. That's, by my expert mathematical calculations, millions of people influenced in their business lives by people from this region. That's pretty cool. What we want to see at the end of this is a culture where we recognise that and we all have that as part of our identity. Like, that's where we come from, man. That's our home. That's what we've been doing this stuff for thousands of years. So when you get up and do it, it's just normal. That's what you do. It's just how we are. Right, so a little bit of detail now about what we're actually going to do here. We are going to have a little program this year. It's going to have launch week funding, and it will be conducted by Runway. And some of the Runway crew are just down here, so you can look at the back of their heads, or the side of their ears. And when you see the backs of those heads and those ears next time, you'll know that they're the people helping us out to roll this program out and teach us stuff. So they've got all the knowledge. What we need to do, all of us, is show LaunchVic, because they've got all the money, and they're giving out heaps of money to Ballarat and to Geelong and all these places, building amazing centres, like with shared office spaces and stuff, but also fabrication laboratories where they've got the tools and the equipment, 3D printers, the laser cutters and CSC routers and the sewing machines and overlockers and all that stuff to make prototypes of the things that are in your brains. So we want some of that down here, right? So if we show them how awesome we are, I think they're more likely to come and support us. We're going to have a bunch of classes and workshops each month. So it's kind of like a fortnightly commitment. We'd expect people to jump into this program to do a fortnightly hour or two learning stuff. And you'll learn the essential business skills that you need to get going, like all the regular stuff, your legals, your financials, your marketing, all that sort of stuff. But also I've noticed, because I've been going to Geelong and Ballarat and checking this stuff out so that when you ask me the tricky questions, I can actually seem like I know what I'm talking about. And there's a lot of networking and sharing that's going on, and bartering and haggling. So, for example, a designer might be building a web app, and then there might be someone who's making furniture. And those guys need products from those other industries, so they just do a direct swap because they're met in the room and they're working together. That's a real huge benefit when you're doing a program like this. It's one of the real incentives. Another big incentive is the $10,000. That's a pretty big incentive too. That's not beating around the bush, so that's pretty cool. So the Fletcher Jones, when they awarded that $10,000, they want to give it to someone who's got the idea. Like, it has to be a great idea. That's half the problem. But then the hard work starts. You've got to actually work pretty hard at a business, as I'm sure there's a couple of nods going on. But those people who are committed and have a great idea and will give it their best shot are definitely eligible to get $10,000 cash, to get like an office space as well, mentorship along the way, and all of those networks. And some of the runway networks include like people who are investing in businesses. So if they like the cut of your jib, they might back you even further than the $10,000. It turns out Fletcher Jones has got like 13 grandchildren, and they run the foundations who donated the money. One of those grandchildren is Stephen Moyers, who started a heap of companies, including Smiggle, and Smiggle's cost me a lot of money. So I kind of want my cut back. It's like the crack cocaine of children. I seriously drove over that. This is no lie. My daughter was so into Smiggle that we were in Sydney because I wanted to see a goddamn exhibition that she wouldn't let me go and see them in, because we drove 4 times across the bridge trying to find Smiggle. I'm not an angry guy, but they saw a different side of me that day. I was so angry. Right, so I thought I'd show you a little bit about some of the stories that really get me in the feels, right? I think it's got quite wobbly. Right. Hopefully. So, that machine, bought by that guy on the left, that's not the actual machine, but that would be cool, right? So that machine bought by the guy on the left, Tommy Rome, brings it over, 1896, puts it into a great big exhibition at the Warrnambool Exhibition Centre, which is now the Lighthouse Theatre and the Post Office. John Villiers sings a couple of wacky songs about chickens and the train crash. And to me, that means that we own recorded music in Australia and everyone else can stuff off. It's ours. No, but we are a really musical place. There's a lot of people earning, and a lot of, which are businesses as well, the way I see it, like Airborne and Architecture in Helsinki and King Parrot and some quite big bands, lots of smaller bands as well. We've got Tom Richardson here at the moment. There's a lot of people earning a living out of music from this region. And I kind of feel like it is partly, like, really seriously, actually part of just what we do. You know, it's like this has been going on here for a long time, and it just gets passed down and passed down and passed down. Yeah. That's redundant, that slide, because it's there. John Nichols, 1963, won the Nobel Prize for Science for his work on the human neural network. So he got to understand brains. So his idea centre was also his work. And that, of course, led to a whole heap of other businesses that come out of that. This is the guy whose sister just tried to ring. So Richard, in 1996, established the Human Genome Sequencing Centre. I keep getting this wrong. It's in Texas. I keep getting it wrong because I've never been there, but man, I'd love to go. So he was at the forefront of mapping DNA. Yeah, so he wasn't on his own, of course. It was a massive undertaking between several countries and 5 centres around the world. And you may have, if you followed the news back in the day, back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was $1 billion project, and it took 20 years. But now we can apply to find out our DNA for $100 because of this dude. Wearable ideas. Mercamora, patented by Lisa, well, it's Mercamora's design on the fabric, and Lisa Borman's dress. So she's another Warrnambool chick who's done very, very well. And I like these links too, so we're obviously focusing on fashion tonight. We're going to hear from a couple of speakers who have got start-up fashion businesses, and one old duck who's been doing it for a long time. And like I said before, that's Namatjira on the right, and that's Rex Batterbeer on the left. So Batterby's Corner is one of the first major intersections you come into after Kmart when you're coming in from Melbourne to Warrnambool, because that's where he lived. This is where it's kind of really cool. Like, I really like this little story. So that building there, to me, is really important and really special and really amazing, even though it looks a bit like crap now. Because someone in the 80s, obviously, it looks incredibly 80s, has put glass bricks on the front and, changed the windows and whatnot. But this is it in the late 40s. Apart from the first thing you see when you look at that photo, I think, is the bikes. You just go, whoa, we had a lot more bikes back then. That was pedestrian, very friendly. So all the haters going to hate, but it's been this way before. So that arrow pointing to that thing, I'm really sorry for people who have been through my speech on this like several times now, but I friggin' love this thing. That's the Trial Perisphere. And if it's looking a little bit familiar, it's because it's very important to Warrnambool. Trial Perisphere at the Fletcher Jones Garden out the front here. Trial Perisphere on top of the building that we're in right now. So if you haven't put up with my boring story before, hands up if you reckon you might know what this alludes to. What is it? Does it look recognisable? Is it familiar or not? So this is the original Trial Perisphere that was so important to Fletcher Jones that he kept sticking on top of all of his buildings. The original Trial Perisphere, 1939 New York, stayed there until the 60s, and it was replaced by another giant sphere, which is really familiar. It's like a big steel globe with the earth cut into it out of steel. We've all seen it. But inside the sphere, the perisphere, was the world of tomorrow. Can I do that again? The world of tomorrow. So it was all these people, all the big companies at the time, and the architects and the town planners, saying this is what we're aiming for, this is the kind of city that we're going to have in the year 2019 when people are gathered in their old factories to look at this stuff. So they thought that there was going to be like robots that could do your smoking for you. It's actually a serious, real thing that people went and saw, this robot that just sat there and smoked. I guess it had no lungs, so I guess it was fine, I don't know. And in the perisphere was Democracy. I should have written more notes about that, but Democracy was divided up into sections. It looked a bit like Canberra, really. It was all like big highways and big sections and circles and whatnot. And each thing was divided up, so the industrial section had a name, the farming section had a name, and the residence was called Pleasantville. And there's like a movie called Pleasantville, and it pops up a fair bit. But the gardens here, they're called Pleasant Hill. And this is when you're inside the perisphere, you'd be looking down on Democracy. So it was a really lifelike model. It looked quite real. The Guggenheim. Yeah. So, does the Trial Perisphere look sort of really familiar now? So Fletcher in the 60s, when he had to build a fireproofing system for his factory, he thought he would make a practical object, but he could have just made what everyone made, like the big cylinder. That would have been fine. But he decided to make the Trial Perisphere because he wanted a symbol for our city that would stand on our horizon as you come into our city. It's like a beacon that Warrnambool is the ship. That Warrnambool is a place of innovation and creativity and thinking and futurism. And that's it. Just a little bit before it got painted. Sorry, I should have got a more recent slide there, Tim. But yeah. But they're all the ideas people, like you guys, thinking of all the cool ideas. So that is why I think the silver ball is amazing. Is it amazing or is it just me? It's a bit of a mixed result, to be honest. So we put more resounding. I know it's definitely amazing, Gareth. Shit. Right, so to make the night far more interesting than just hearing me rabble on about the things I think are cool, we thought we'd focus on fashion. So tonight, but over the coming months, we'll be looking at different industries that have made a big impact, and we're encouraging everyone, because another little question I had was, is the Ideas Place all about fashion? One of the mistakes I made. I could have made that more clear, that we were just focusing on it for the first event. But obviously, after all that, you understand that we have had a big impact on fashion around the whole world. And our first guest was part of the sort of 60s, 70s, 80s global fashion movement in surf culture, in taking board shorts and making them a everyday bit of apparel. So he helped, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's helped Alan Green start Quicksilver. He was the guy that wrote Rip Curl Hot Dog on a surfboard, and then the guy who owned the surfboard set up Rip Curl, the fashion company, and then he spent several decades as the head global designer of Quicksilver. And I've got to make it, I'll also point out this is Simon Buttonshaw, and Simon he's a deep dude. Like, he goes deep on the conversations, like it just goes really serious really quick, and you end up in a really zen kind of place. And so to counterbalance that with some just outright idiocy, we thought we'd get Glenn Morgan. Isn't it? It's the same role that you're so good at it. So that's right. I kid because I do. I made a joke about it though. Picasso once claimed that he spent his whole life trying to make art as good as he made it when he was 6 years old. And if you know Glenn Morgan's work, I'm sure that you'll agree that he's done what Picasso couldn't. It's good, isn't it? Sorry, but Glenn Morgan has recently completed a whole incredible 2-year body of work of amazing artworks on the whole story of Fletcher Jones and the Fletcher Jones family, the whole thing. And so I figure he's actually got more expertise to speak about this than I do. And we're going to dig into a little bit of the story of Simon's connection with Fletcher Jones. So Glenn and Simon, if you would care to join us, and if everyone else would...